Leisure time, that's the next topic, and it's part 3 of the IELTs speaking exam. These are some of the questions being used. Here's a Band 9 model answer. Feel free to use it, steal some ideas, steal phrases, steal vocabulary, but try to reword it so that these become your ideas and not just my exact answers. That's how you can get a higher band score. In these last 5 minutes, I'd like to ask you some more general questions about leisure. Do you think only old people have time for leisure? Not at all. I think most people have at least some leisure time or free time. Granted, if you're retired, you will have more free time. But let's not forget children. They're just small people and they tend to have some of the most free time of anyone. And there's a reason that school days are, at least in the Western world, are quite short in comparison to working days of adults. Also even working people, everyone has at least some free time. Most people have weekends where they can relax. There could also be some evenings where people can unwind and chill out. What leisure activities do young people prefer? This isn't definitively true, but older people, I guess you could say, tend to have worse health than younger people, and so they might be more excluded from the very physically challenging activities or extreme sports. Young people, of course, can do any sort of activity. So older people that I know who are in their 80s, they tend to do things like gardening or gentle walks, sometimes cycling. Younger people do any number of activities depending on their tastes and interests. But then again, there are also older people that do very physically challenging things. I was part of a karate class and we had lots of downgrades, those with black belt and above, who were over 70 and still participating in tournaments. How do people spend leisure time in your country? In most of the major cities in the UK, you can do it pretty much anything, anything from yoga and meditation all the way up to skydiving, karate, or horse riding. Maybe not horse riding in the centre of the cities, but yeah, pretty much any activity that takes your fancy. But in terms of quantity, I suppose most people, when they get home from work, they tend to be quite tired. I think most people I know tend to watch Netflix or just chill out with their laptop. So that would probably be the most common leisure activity, if you can call it that. Do you think leisure activities should not only entertain people, but also educate them as well? Psst, this question is a little bit of a trap. Don't fall for it. Lower level English speakers tend to agree with this question because they think, education is good, so I think, yes, that was good. But think about the question. It's about leisure. Does leisure always have to be educational? Do you really believe that? Who really thinks that? Remember to answer both sides if you do believe that some people think this. Do you think leisure activities should not only entertain people, but also educate them as well? I think by definition, a leisure activity is something fun to do, or something that helps to relax you. So perhaps ideally some parents might want those activities that their children do in outside of school time to also be developing them in some way. But realistically, I think downtime is important, especially for children. So no, I don't think all leisure activities should be educational. Great if they are, but a leisure activity needs to be something that helps you to unwind and find yourself again. Even things like playing computer games, kicking a ball around the street, or just staring at the ceiling. I do that sometimes. Do you think that people today have more leisure time than before? Some people argue that people are busier than they've ever been before, especially now that there are, professions like investment banking, being in law, or being a doctor, which require super long hours, or the work culture expects that you work weekends and as much as you can. But I think in modern life you have more of a choice. People don't have to go into those professions, whereas in the past people relied on things like subsistence farming, to work to be able to feed your families. I think there are very few people that absolutely have to work long hours in order to make sure that their families are fed. So in that sense, people have more choice and they are able to work less if they choose to. But perhaps modern working conditions dictate a kind of culture where people are prepared and more used to working longer than before. And I don't think that's so healthy. In general, who do you think has more leisure time, men or women? To be honest, I'm not really sure how to answer that. I suppose it would depend on the culture, the country, and the region. But if we just assume that it's Western culture for now, I think things tend to be a little bit more even in terms of gender equality. Now both genders tend to go to work. They do housework. Things are becoming much more balanced. But I suspect that gender inequality is far from over. So even in Western nations, I suspect that it's women who get a raw deal and perhaps have less leisure time overall, because of household chores and perhaps working as well. If you got some positive ideas about how you could talk about these questions, make sure you don't miss out these next questions, which are even more useful.